Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at issue 218 of Simply Cards and Papercraft. So this one has come out a little later this month, but hopefully everyone has been able to grab a copy of this. The free gift that comes with this magazine is called Zest For Life, and we've got 9 dies here with 17 coordinating stamps. There's also some SVG files and patterned paper that you can get from their website. So you've got some patterned papers, and it looks like we've got some sort of sentiments and other sort of fruity pieces that you can cut out. But for the moment, let's just take a look in the magazine itself. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the cards. I'm just going to hold this up a little bit because we do have a little bit of reflection from the lights on this magazine. But in here, so this is called Happy Hour. So you've got all your downloadable elements just talked about here. But we've got, again, lots of different shaped cards, lots of different styles. We've got shaker cards, we've got some straws going on here. And it's this really cool thing. They've created a glass. I'm guessing that is from some vellum. But we've got in here how to cut, stamp and cut your own shaker elements. So again, using those sort of fruit pieces we've got. Again, we've got the birthday straws used as the background just for that one. We have got pulley tabs here to create a fun slider card using your Zest For Life set. So that's pretty cool. So you can kind of slide that down and it gives you then that message behind the glass. Again, some really interesting kind of elements in here. Lots of different kinds of things. Again, shaker cards in there. And then we have got this one. So again, yeah, this is some vellum that they've used to create a glass. Again, we've got a 3D kind of straw element in there, and then we have got our background. So really, really beautiful. And I think this has been created by the looks of it using the half stamp to create some sort of a full pieces of fruit there. So that is really great. So some of the other projects in here that I thought was just absolutely beautiful, these are sort of watercoloring. These are designed by Christina Smith, and I just think these are absolutely beautiful. If I could watercolor like this, it would just absolutely make my day. But these are just so pretty. You can use them in so many different ways. So you've gone from having something quite not basic, but you've got something that doesn't sort of have a lot of layers and things going on, but something that I think is really, really pretty. And then the other examples that you've got in the magazine are using a lot more of the elements, you know, fun things like shakers and pulleys and things like that. But I think these are super elegant, and these are going to be great, I feel, as well for like masculine cards. So she's used lots of different elements together, creating the glass. So this is a drawn tumbler here. So she's just drawn this and filled it. Something like that is going to be absolutely perfect for a masculine card. So we've got gin down here, but all of the ice cubes, the fruit that she's used, and just kind of that colour palette I think is just so beautiful. So, and again, she's got tutorials in here as well, different watercolour. So this is like a masterclass for watercolouring techniques. So we've got wet on wet techniques, splattering, wet on dry. So just sort of walking you through kind of different elements of watercolouring. But yeah, I just think these are so beautiful. This one here is probably my favourite. Let me just hold that up. But we've also got here, step up your skill level with watercolours and your Zest For Life stamp set. Yeah, I just think that's so beautiful. I love the colours that she's used. Just the design. It just shows that you can really use these stamps, and they can be so, so versatile. And not just this set. I think all of the stamp sets you get, you know, with these free magazines. So let's take a look at what's going to be included in next month's issue. Okay, so next month we have got this floral kit, and this is a 28-piece stamp and die set. So by the looks of it, we do get some coordinating papers as well to download from their website. So this is it's called Very Vintage. So looks like we've got sort of maybe a frame element in here. We've got a happy birthday die in there, and then some coordinating dies with the foliage and flowers that we've got down here. But again, yeah, we've got like a little bird cage, again, some frames, a couple of sentiments, watering can, and a wheel. So that is really, really pretty, and that comes on sale on the 8th of July. So we don't have long to wait for the next issue of Simply Cards and Papercraft. But for now, let's actually get into creating the card for today's project. So just before we start, hopefully the glare in my mat doesn't bother you all too much. I've noticed that some of my videos are maybe just a little bit dark, so I've tried to move my lights a little bit, but yeah, hopefully it's not going to kind of distract sort of too much. But for creating today's card, so the first thing I'm going to start off with is our stamp set. So I love the stamp set. I love all of these pieces of fruit in here. And then it's really great that you've got then these dies in here to create sort of different drinks, and you've got straws, and again then you've got a couple of fruit dies in there as well. But I'm actually going to create a background just with a couple of these stamps, and I'm really going to be using those watercolor examples from Christine as my inspiration today, because like I said, I just think they are so beautiful. And I'm going to create more of a kind of full background, I guess a bit more like this, but kind of less watercolory, because I'm really not very good at doing things like that. So yeah, definitely taking this as my inspiration for today. So in here we have got we've got a mint leaf, we have got then a segment here, and you can use this for lemon, lime, orange, just varying obviously the colours. We have got then just like a little segment of the skin there. We've got the half or little segment half piece of fruit. I'm not sure what that is meant to be. That could be like a pomegranate, maybe it could be a kiwi, something like that, but I'm going to kind of maybe stick around kind of the whole fruit, maybe a bit of half fruit. And let's just really see sort of where we go. So I've already cut myself a piece of watercolour cardstock here. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We're going to create our background. I've got my stamping block and I've got some VersaFine Onyx Black. I was trying, just before I started this video, I was trying to use the Antique Linen Distress ink. I wanted to go for kind of a no line bit of colouring today, but I'll be honest, I really couldn't kind of get it to work properly. The lines sort of weren't disappearing as much as I wanted them to, so I think I'm just going to do them in black. So I'm going to bring in just a couple more of my acrylic blocks, and I'm going to add the kind of quarter segment to one of them, and let's go for the ice cube and see kind of what we can do with that. So what I'm going to do is sort of alternate on here. So I really want to show you that you can just create backgrounds using multiple stamps from your stamp set. So rather than always having to kind of build them up into, you know, kind of main elements. So like in this set, for example, we've got the glass. So instead of having to do that, you can just use smaller stamp sets to create a really fun background. So like I said, I've got my watercolor cardstock here. So what I'm going to do is just begin by inking up my segment, or my half should I say, and I'm really simply just going to stamp that, and then I'm going to kind of just go around really in no kind of particular order. So I'm actually just going to grab a piece of scrap for my ice cube. Just, I don't really need it that dark, and we're just gonna really simply kind of build this up, go in, you know, lots of different kinds of way. We'll do a couple lighter, a couple darker for our ice cube. So you can see I'm just turning sort of that segment. I am just sort of turning them so they are sort of going different ways. Like I said, I don't want it to be kind of too perfect, and then I'm going to come off the page as well. And I am using the VersaFine Onyx Black as well, because this is a waterproof ink. Like I said, we're going to be sort of taking just a little bit of inspiration and trying out a little bit of watercolouring. So there it is, our super easy background that's just come together really quickly. So again, it's just great to use up some of your smaller stamps that you have in your stamp sets just to create really kind of fun backgrounds. So now we've got this down, we can go ahead and just start adding a little bit of colour. So I have taken out my Prism brush markers. So I'm going to take mainly just kind of 3 colours. So I'm going to do kind of that lemon, lime and orange sort of colour palette. And then so in the magazine, Christina used a blue shade for her ice cube. So I'm going to kind of pick quite a light blue colour. So I'm going to go with these 3 colours here, and I do then have a watercolour brush as well, which has got the barrel for the water to go straight in it, just for a little bit of ease. So I'm really not going to be looking for anything kind of too perfect with this background, because we want to have that kind of loose watercolour kind of vibe going on. But so what I'm going to do is, first of all, so we'll take a yellow, and I'm just going to come in with the sort of segment bits. I'm going to concentrate the colour sort of towards the bottom, just like that. Then I'm going to take my watercolour brush, and I'm just simply going to kind of pull that colour out. So let's make sure we've got some water actually on the brush itself, and you can see just how easily that is kind of brushing out. So this is my good watercolour paper as well, and I think this will really help, where I've said before that I wasn't 100% sure sort of how to use these kind of pens to really get the best results from them, but I think using a good quality watercolour card is really going to help. And I think then using this brush marker, this is kind of a proper one. Some of the others that I had, I think they were just sort of some cheapy ones that I picked up, but I didn't think that they kind of worked very well. It didn't really bring the water out particularly great, so I never kind of used them too often. But I'm not really, like I said, going in for anything kind of too perfect in here. I'm happy to have it a little bit more loose. Let's do just a half a segment here, and I want to still have sort of a little bit of you know, white in there as well. So let's just do one more for the moment on this side. Again, just pull that colour out. Let's go in then, so let's do a little bit of green. So this is going to kind of be our limes. Okay, so that's kind of the base layer for our fruit. So let's come in for our ice cubes now. So I might just sort of, so I'll just kind of experiment with this a little bit. So let's just move that. So I've just put sort of a little bit in there. Yeah, I think that looks good. So I'm actually just going to do one bit down the side, sort of just like that. Let's just add that colour to all of them. Okay, and then let's do our last one. So I'm just, again, making sure that my brush is wet, probably wetter for these than what I have done for my pieces of fruit. But there, so you've just got, you know, a nice sort of little bit of colour in there just to kind of help it sort of look more like an ice cube. So hopefully you can kind of see that all on the camera. If I just sort of do that, hopefully you'll be able to see that. But so most of the rest of this is going to be dry now. So what I'm going to do is just come in right in the centre and kind of darken those bits up. Just again to add, you know, a little bit more kind of depth. So let's do that for all of them. Okay, so now I just want to add a little bit of colour onto the background. So I've picked out a shade of purple, and I'm going to scribble that onto sort of the white side of my glass mat, because then I can see exactly kind of where that colour is. So I'm looking for just kind of more of a sort of a wash here. So I'm going to squeeze some of that water out from my brush, and I'm just going to mix that in. And then all I'm going to do is kind of pick a section sort of to begin with, and I'm going to kind of really loosely again sort of just come in with that colour. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. It doesn't have to be kind of bold and things. So like this section here, if you feel like that's kind of too much colour, you know, you could just add a small amount of water to that just to kind of move that colour around. But what's going to look really nice is you're going to have kind of different sort of layers and sections in here where it's going to sort of just dry a little bit differently. I'm trying really hard not to kind of go over our pieces of fruit in here. So I'm just going to kind of rotate my card as I go. And you can see I'm just really loosely kind of filling in that background. So there's just a really super easy kind of background there. Again, hopefully you can really see that colour on the screen. And what I'm going to do is just come back into some areas just to kind of add, you know, a little few darker pieces maybe, just to kind of give it that more, you know, watercoloured kind of look where you do have sort of, like I said, the harsher lines and things. I wouldn't necessarily do that to begin with. I would kind of get down that, you know, sort of base colour first and then kind of just add to it, because you can always add, but you can't always kind of take away from your pieces. So I'm super happy with how that looks. So I'm just going to clean up that sort of little bit of colour, because what I want to do now is just add some really kind of simple splatters. So I'm going to see if this will work with these pens. I'm not 100% sure, but let's sort of give it a go. Let's just clean my brush. Okay, so let's just add a little bit more water just to kind of get those splatters going. Okay, let's add some orange splatters. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp some elements to create sort of a topper for our card. So I've already popped some of my stamps onto my acrylic blocks. So the first thing we're going to do is take our gin glass here and we're going to stamp that. I'll just grab another block just because I want to stamp my segment here. So I'm going to stamp that one just there. So I've created a mask just from fully sticky backed post-it notes. So I can stamp this one again and make it look like it is kind of sat behind, just like that. Then we've got our piece of mint, which we're going to have kind of sitting sort of almost behind our fruit, but it's going to make it look like our fruit kind of sunk to the ground, and then our mint is just kind of more at the top. I'm also going to add an umbrella. So what I'm doing here is just creating one full image rather than sort of doing these separately, cutting them all out separately and kind of building it. I'm just kind of doing it this way instead. And then I do definitely want to add in our straw, but I'm not sure. It might kind of end up being a little big, so I'm not going to ink up the whole of our straw. So let's say I'm just going to kind of go to there, and I think that's going to be ideal. So what I'm going to do is I did create another mask just for our mint leaf. So let's add that one there. Let's just ink that up a little bit more. And then our straw is just going to go kind of nicely there. So let's just take off our masks. So you can see then we've got kind of a really great sort of full glass in here. Just to help this umbrella, because it does look like it is kind of just floating there, is I'm actually just going to stamp another one of these mint leaves, and I'm going to kind of line it up with the bottom of our umbrella just to kind of make it look like our umbrella is sort of behind there. So now instead of stamping them all separately, fussy cutting them and then kind of putting them together, we've got one sort of complete image here. Okay, so once again, we're going to do kind of the same thing we did to create our background. We're going to use our brush markers again. So all I'm going to do is come in basically the exact same way that I did the first time. So let's do these as sort of lemons and limes. I think that's going to work really nicely together. So let's come back in then with our water brush pen. And then in the exact same way, we're just gonna pull out that colour. So I'm not worried about this being kind of too vivid, obviously, because this is meant to be, you know, inside the glass. Let's just pull that colour out nicely. And then we need to bring in sort of a lighter colour then, just for our mint. And then I'm simply just gonna do this kind of down the stem. So let's just clean our brush off. Again, just kind of pull out that colour. Just like so. Let's add a little bit of warmth in here, just in the way of our straw. So we'll add just a tiny bit of red. And then for our umbrella, let's come in with our orange, just so then this is gonna sort of fit in nicely with our background. So maybe not the best colour combination because these will sort of mix together, but let's just kind of do the blue and try not to kind of overwork then that orange in there. That's fine. And then so with our blue, what I'm going to do is add the colour to the bottom of our glass, and we're going to try, let's just turn it round, so we're going to try and pull that colour out kind of as much as we possibly can. So I'm super happy with how that looks. Again, I'm hoping you'll be able to see that on camera with all that colour in there. It's sort of in real life, it's sort of mixed really nicely from the blue to the green to the yellow. Obviously complementary colours, it sort of is going together really nicely. But again, I'm really hoping that you are able to kind of see that. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and just cut out our image. And again, this means we're only cutting one image out rather than doing lots and kind of building that together. And I'm gonna try and do a nice even kind of border along the outside. Okay, so there we have our cut out glass. So I've tried my best with this to make it as even as possible. Because this is a watercolour card, it is a lot thicker, and where we have added water, some areas are sort of a lot thinner, but it really just takes some practice to sort of perfect fussy cutting out. Okay, so let's bring back in our background, and we have our gin glass there. So what you will notice is that it's very busy, the background, so this doesn't kind of stand out as much as you would want it to. So there are sort of some easy fixes to help with that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually just going to use a piece of vellum. So what I love about vellum is, so you can still see that background that you worked really hard on, but then if you add your element over the top, it's just really going to help let that stand out and kind of take center stage, but again, without kind of dulling your background. So what I'm going to do is, I just want kind of a strip of this. So I'm actually just going to tear this, because then we get that really nice kind of white ripped edge. And I'm going to do that kind of the same on this side. And I am just kind of going sort of side to side with that, just to, you know, make it a little bit more interesting. And I can add that to the center of my card. And then I can pop my glass just on top of that. And you can see then sort of the difference that makes. So if I just take it away, again, it's just getting quite lost in there. And then if we add it back on, it's just sort of helping it to stand out. So, you know, it really just goes to show adding something as simple as vellum to your card will just really help your main element kind of stand out. So the other thing I want to do, just to add a smidge more colour into this, is I'm going to take a piece of yellow, mustard yellow cardstock here. So I'm just going to take my scrap, and I just want to do like the same again with the ripped edge, but just a thinner piece right down that centre. So I don't need it to be kind of too big. So I'm just going to do that same thing again, where I'm going to kind of rip it. So what I love about this cardstock is it is the colour all the way through to the core. It doesn't have that white centre. And all I'm going to do then is just that same thing along the other side. Just to have, so we're going to have our vellum. We are then going to have just our strip of yellow card. And again, so that just really helps, if I just move my hands, so that is really helping just to bring that glass to life, bring it up off that background, and we've just used something really simple. So what I'm going to do is add some adhesive to this, but I'm only going to add it to the centre, so then you're not going to be able to see it behind our yellow piece. So I'm just going to add sort of 3 lines just on top of each other. I'm going to turn this horizontally just so I can kind of get this in the spot where I want it. Just like so. Having said that though, even if you just use that vellum, you really actually can't see that adhesive on there anyway. So again, let's add some adhesive to our yellow piece. And I'm not going to add adhesive kind of to every little section of it, because I'd like it if it does kind of just stand up a little bit. So again, so I'm going to have just this piece here kind of nearer the bottom. Okay, so let's add that sort of somewhere just in the middle there. And then we can cut off our excess. Okay, so there we have the front. Then we can add on our glass. But before that, we want to, of course, add a sentiment to this. So let's just pull out our stamp set again and see what we've got. So live life with added zest, you are the gin to my tonic. So we've got happy birthday, handmade with love, drink gin, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So I think we're going to have live life with added zest. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto some pistachio green cardstock, just to add an extra colour. So I'm not going to use the weaved side, I'm going to use this smoother side. And just for something really simple, I'm going to just stamp that again in our VersaFine Onyx Black ink, just because that gives us a really great impression every single time. So I'm just going to add this into some clear embossing powder, just to give it a little bit of shine. Since we're not really doing sort of anything interesting with it, it'll just sort of add that extra bit of shine to it, and then we can go ahead and heat set this. So for my sentiment, I'm actually going to die cut this because I would just want a bit more of an interesting border. So these are the Spellbinders Nestabilities. These are labels 17, so it's just some nesting dies in here. I'm going to take the smallest ones. So let's just grab a piece of washi tape. Let's kind of line this up. And then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Okay, so let's take this just out the die. And again, it just sort of adds something a little bit more interesting, just with that being a different shape. So what I'm going to do just to make this a little bit more interesting is I'm going to take a little bit of bundled sage. I've got here just my finger daubers. Let's just go in, and I'm just really simply just going to go around the outside and just add a tiny bit more depth this piece, just again so it stands out. So if you don't want to add mats and layers and maybe you've got some inks on hand, this is a really simple way again of just turning a sentiment into something a little bit more interesting. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the elements that we're gonna use on our card. So let's add some foam tape to our glass. Okay, so here we have our gin glass. So let's pop that on nice and straight. Then we're just going to add some foam squares onto the back of our sentiment as well. So there's our sentiment. I've just trimmed this down slightly just so it will fit on our card. Little bit of dimension. So we're going to add some of our Big Mama foam tape. So let's add this onto our panel. So we've got a small amount of dimension on there with that, and then we can just add some Nuvo drops if we want, just to, you know, finish this off. So I'm going to take a little bit of dandelion yellow. I'm just going to do 2 on there, and then I'm going to do just 1 smaller one in that bottle green. So that is our card finished for today's video. So this was using the Zest For Life stamp and die set from issue 218 of Simply Cards and Papercraft. I really love how this has come out. It's just something a little bit different. It's really lovely and bright, perfect for the summer. So if you did like this card, then please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.